CR TV, channel of God's love. A warm welcome to all our viewers on this episode of Activists of Goa. In this episode, we bring to you Goa's multifaceted personality, Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida. Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida is a human rights activist, author of the book Tug and Tear, co-founder of Bailando Saad, a member of the Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development, a columnist, a visiting faculty at various law schools, and co-initiator of several other citizen groups such as Citizens Initiative for Communal Harmony and the Taligaon Community Farming Initiative. Welcome to our studios, Advocate Dr. Albertina. It's nice to have you here with us.
Thank you.
To begin with, Dr. Albertina, can you tell our viewers what actually came first? Was it your profession as an advocate, or was it a lecturer in law schools, or social activism and a human rights activist as a human rights activist?
Well, it was activism that came first.
Activism came first?
Yes,
okay.
From the time I was a student,
I see.
I have been an activist. But I want to say also that I have not been an individual activist. I have always operated as part of groups.
Part of a group.
Yes.
So, something called activism was already in you, and that came out as a young student while you were doing your law studies, perhaps?
No.
Or much before that?
Well, I guess the fire was kindled when there were human rights violations that I was actually viewing and seeing during the emergency. I was a school kid then, and my mother had been suspended from the government archives office.
I see.
And that is when I understood that if you stand up and if you do not want to succumb to the will of corruption, you can face charges. She was, of course, exonerated from the charges, but that whole process of what all that went on, and it changed me.
As a young mind, what we are observing, seeing, it kindled a flame in you.
Human rights violations can mean.
So you had a meaningful beginning, we can say, seeing what your mother went through. Am I right?
Yes.
But were you not apprehensive about becoming a human rights activist, especially say around 35, 40 years, when the concept of actual activism of such kind and the role of an activist was hardly known in our Goan society?
Yeah, because I was not apprehensive, because I was not doing it because I wanted to get acceptance in Goan society. Rather, I believed in going with understanding what the issues of people are and raising those issues as I went along, along with others in the group that I was, whichever groups I was part of. So really speaking, it didn't bother me. Yes, there were times when people said, "Oh, people from your type of families do not, sit on the road or walk on the road in protest, etc." So I said that doesn't matter to me. It's not. There's no question of these types of families and those types of families. When you have to stand up for your rights, and when you have to stand up for the rights of people, you have to stand up for them.
And you were very firm in your mind about that, am I right? There were no two opinions about it.
No, there were a lot of pressures not to, be one. Because, everyone around was not being an activist.
Correct.
So,
and as I said, that concept had not come in at full-fledged like in Goa that time, right?
Yes.
And as you said, what you observed during the emergency time, what your mother went through, the harrowing time she had. But beside this, was there any other incident or a story behind this which actually, propelled you into being a full-time activist?
I would say I won't call myself a full-time activist because I'm an advocate by profession.
That is one part of it.
But yes, it's there in me all the time.
All the time.
Well, I would say there are many. There are many incidents. Like for instance, I wasn't earlier immediately concerned about gender discrimination initially, but when I realized that there is a need for women's rights movements, because no movement addresses women's rights issues. And the statement that was constantly made even in progressive circles is that in Goa there is no violation of women's rights, because we have uniform civil code.
That was the
till
reason given.
today we are battling with explaining that uniform civil code and women's rights, women's human rights, safety, etc. are not really correlated.
They are two different things.
They are two different things, and it's also a question mark to what extent the uniform civil code in Goa is really uniform, and how just it is.
So somebody somewhere was trying to kind of shelter it, to pull a blanket over it, mixing
pull a blanket over
it,
violation
of human rights.
Yes, and there were incidents that were happening where women were discriminated against, or women were, for example, bottom pinched by somebody, or nudged by somebody on the street, or in wherever they were working.
They are all part of human rights violation,
these are all
right?
violations of human rights.
Now, in a layperson's term, ma'am, can you tell our viewers what exactly is human rights?
Well, human rights is about the right to live with dignity, the right to life, the right to livelihood, the right to equality. Basically, the right to live with dignity, essentially. So,
as a citizen of a country, of a free country.
Not just as a citizen, as a human being, the right to be human.
Okay.
And to be able to express themselves freely, to be able to live their lives to the fullest as full human beings, with proper economic, social, cultural, political rights.
And be part of the entire social forum, without any kind of pressure of any kind, right?
Yes.
Now, being a human rights activist, can you name some of the organizations in our state of Goa that you have been a part of, you have formed, been a co-founder, and what are the actual human rights issues that you have taken up?
So, I've been part of various groups, or I've either been part of them or advised groups sometimes. Or been supportive of groups sometimes. So some of them I'm not a part of at the moment, but I'm supportive of them.
Supportive.
Like, say, for example, Bailanjasad, I'm supportive of the group, but like, for example, as part of Bailanjasad, we have taken up various issues that concerned discrimination against women. Including sexual harassment of women at the workplace. Then the invisibilization of women in development projects. So the government comes up with development, and we are asking development for whom and at whose cost.
Okay.
You see, so there have been various, like, say, tourism. They always said tourism is the solution to Goa's problems. But tourism for whose benefit and at whose cost is the question that has been raised. This has also been raised subsequently when, for example, in other groups that I have been part of, like, say, for example, the SEZ watch, which Special Economic Zone watch, which also I co-initiated, where we were saying these special economic zones are what?
Okay.
People must have a right to participate in planning processes
for the
development of for which concern their development. It's their right to self-determination. And if they do not have this basic right, then this that impinges on everything, because then their points of view are not taken into account. Their lives, their worldviews are not taken into account. So what women do is not taken into account.
So in other words, whatever development that is planned in various fields is just kind of superficial without human development. That's what exactly you mean to say, ma'am?
Yes, it is meant for fueling or filling the pockets of a select few.
Okay.
You see, and you see that playing out even today. So at best, I guess what groups have been able to achieve, is a pushback. It's not been meaning to kind of stall this from happening, but the push is so strong that you have to keep fighting.
Keep fighting,
I wonder when will be that date when we don't have to fight, when we will be able to constructively input into a healthy
And-
into healthy planning processes, into
Yeah.
healthy processes for ensuring safety of all human beings, irrespective of caste, religion, and ethnicity.
Ethnicity. So, in other words, you say that there is a need to build a kind of a system, a healthy system where everybody is taken into account while doing any kind of projects like that. Am I right?
Yes,
This
yes.
is what exactly you want
Yes.
to say. Ma'am, considering Goa is a small state, how serious are these human right violations in Goa? And if you may tell us, is an average Goan aware of his human rights and privileges that are enshrined in the constitution?
So, I think in many cases people might be aware, but the way it is made out, it's as if somebody is rolling out something to them.
Okay.
You see, the whole system is designed around schemes. We are giving you, that is the kind of tone that
Right,
there is to
right.
the whole
Okay,
thing.
okay.
Whereas that is the rights of people. For
Yes.
example, housing schemes. Why should it be a scheme?
Yeah.
It is everybody's basic human right to housing.
To have a shelter over the head.
Yes. So why should it be a scheme? So the point is that people know that there are these schemes, that scheme, etc., but they may not understand and realize that these are their rights.
Rights.
Now there have been some efforts through various in conjunction with various bodies, like for example the State Legal Services Authority has got has a thing to go about in various schools, form little do little talks about understanding of the constitution and basic human rights, etc. But I think a lot of these initiatives, they suffer from some sort of paralysis at some point of time, and they go on to newer things.
They are not carried forward.
They have to be consistent and it has to go on and on.
The process should be a continuous process. And
yes.
that is not happening, what you mean to say.
Yes, there should be this process should also in some ways be institutionalized in these schools where you talk of human rights.
In fact, I was coming to that, whether this human rights, knowledge of human rights should be a part of the school syllabus.
It should be, and it probably
Maybe
is.
at high school level.
Yes, there is probably some reference to this in, but it's not. It's very much couched in civics, or it is not maybe reflecting in more directly as constitution and
subject.
the kind of human rights that the Constitution of India guarantees. The Constitution itself is a vibrant living document, and if people know that document, they can catch that document by its by its teeth, so to say.
Exactly.
And try to see how the human rights can percolate to people, and make demands, visualize demands in the law, which will make sure that constitution is implemented.
And nobody does a kind of a favor on the citizens. Am I
Yeah,
right?
it's not a favor.
Not a
on the
favor at
citizens.
all. Not a favor at all. Ma'am, having worked in this human rights activism for quite some time, which section of society, is the most vulnerable for violation of human rights as of now?
I would say that I don't like exactly to make comparisons.
Yes.
But I would say there are various sections at this point of time that are really under target. These are that is the minorities, the what are called depressed castes, or the marginalized castes.
Society.
Then the tribal communities, they are sort of invisibilized in the system. Their rights in land, for example, in many cases may not even be recognized. With the famous case of IIT at Satari.
Yes.
So here the tribal people have rights to land there. So because of their struggle and their collective struggle, they were able to stall that
Yes.
IIT from being set up there.
Yes.
But they're still vulnerable to any other project coming there because the rights have not been formally, documented, or that record is yet to be properly traced.
So in other words, this community is like, they're sitting on the edge. You never know what may
Yes.
come up next.
Yes.
And their fight for their survival starts all over again.
Exactly.
Huh?
Exactly.
So far, they have done a very
Yes.
valuable thing and kept themselves up against the system.
By being organized.
Exactly.
And that's the importance of rights activism. To work collectively. It's not about being individual activists. It's about working collectively
As a group.
As a group for change.
As a community also.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, talking about discrimination now, does gender or caste or religious discrimination in society that we sometimes see also comes under the purview of human rights violation?
Yes, of course, because women's rights are human rights. The rights of marginalized castes, people from marginalized castes are human beings.
Yes.
Their rights are human rights, and their lives matter. The lives of tribal communities matter. They are human beings. Their rights are human rights. So all these are very much human rights, and the violations of are happening in Goa. We like to put like a blanket over it, and to cover
Pretend
it
everything is fine.
for the sake to present a very nice image to the world for tourism, etc.
Kind of a rosy picture.
Yeah, and to push this under the carpet.
Under the carpet.
But the fact is, from all my years of being involved as an activist, I can tell you, gender discrimination exists, caste discrimination exists. When I was teaching at law college, I took the students to a village in Chandel, you see, and I was myself not aware. So a lot of these exposures have helped me also to understand what the reality is, and we have to go out. More and more people must go out and be exposed to what is happening in Goa. We tend to be within our own shell,
Yes.
where our relatives are based, etc.
Right.
So when I went to Chandel, and the students went around in groups, to various houses, and they discovered that there were places where people were served water by pouring in their hands so that they do not touch the pot.
I see.
So I myself didn't think that something like this exists. Of course, I know that caste system exists at times of weddings, everything, caste comes into play. It seems like that even in love marriages, sometimes caste comes into play. Yeah. So the thing is that caste system exists in some places more subtly, but in some places it's there the way it is in the rest of India.
But is it so serious even now in this modern day society of us? Is gender discrimination still happening? Is it still prevalent in our society?
Yes, it will tell you from the fact that, for example, in our assembly, how many MLAs do we have?
Yes.
3 women MLAs,
Yes.
right?
So this is also one example of discrimination.
That is a very direct reflection of the state of things. And even those MLAs are not necessarily, like a completely independent. I mean, it looks like they have become MLAs because of their spouses. So women as such, who do not have already an attachment to somebody who is already an MLA,
Okay.
almost do not stand a chance, it looks like. Either to get a ticket, or if they do get a ticket, to get elected.
Do you see in the near future this kind of discrimination or this kind of situation changing for the better?
Yes, I would like to be, as an activist, I would like to be hopeful.
And change the
I
situation.
think the more we are organized and united in our understanding that we must face the onslaught of violations of human rights that is happening today, the better it is. The faster we recognize this and be more organized, the better it is for society.
Society at large.
And of course, we must also realize that Goan society is not operating in isolation.
Yes.
One, there are specifics that that people in Goa face, that Goans face. because of their different legal histories,
Okay.
their different political histories. There are specific violations that Goans are facing, but there are also violations that they are facing as part of as having been annexed to India, and also as being part of the Asia, as being part of the world, where a certain kind of you know politics of superiority of one section over the other is playing out in different parts of the world.
And
even
it's still there, existing very much.
yes, so we have to fight at various levels, and at that level we do end up. That's why networking with organizations in various parts of the country and the world. That's how I'm also a member of the Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development.
Okay. Ma'am, now talking about human rights on the other side, what are the rights and the privileges for the welfare and protection of the minorities?
So the point is that first of all, our constitution talks of substantive equality, which means that you cannot have people who are not generally equals in society being given equal treatment, being given the same treatment under the law.
Okay.
So those sections that have been that have been marginalized or minoritized over a period of time need special treatment.
Okay.
That is why you have special provisions for women. There are special provisions for minorities. Those provisions must be retained and strengthened, so that the minority communities will come on par. You see, but however, instead of that, what we find is an onslaught in terms of various kinds of attacks on minorities. And believe me, this is happening in Goa as well. The last year, we did a fact-finding report as part of citizens' initiatives for communal harmony.
Okay.
You may very often we also don't realize the connections. So there was an incident. It was reported in the newspapers that that Muslims have pelted stones on a Ram Navami rally.
Yes.
Now, if you read that news item, you will say, "Oh, this is not good,"
Yeah.
and
It's harmful for the society.
Yes,
Yeah.
but when we actually dug into it, we realized that the location that they were, the organizers of the Ram Navami rally had actually planned. This was a planned move to kind of target minorities.
Okay.
And in fact, in their call for the rally, they had even talked of the Sankwal issue. You see, and said that we have to, regain our space, etc. So-called regain. You see, so the point is, and the rally started. Although they had taken permission to start it from elsewhere, they started it from Sankwal.
Okay.
You see, it's such brazen violations of the law. And did anybody do anything about it? No. We have brought out a fact-finding report documented with interviews with the organizers of the rally and the minority community. So we have not spoken to just one side. We have
Correct.
spoken to everybody.
So your reporting and your view were balanced from talking to either side, both the camps.
Yes. Balanced in the sense of course, we were listening to everybody.
Yeah.
But we could see that there is obviously a targeting of the minorities and false allegations. And this was not the case only in Goa. It was in 8 states in India. So you could see that there is a kind of a move. So we also have to link up, and that is what we do constantly, of linking up. Now, and we noticed at that time when we were doing this fact-finding report that there are several things in the pipeline, you see, which are not seeming like they are targeting minorities, but they are ultimately intended to target minorities. For example, they talked of a fund for rebuilding temples. You see, rebuilding temples which were destroyed. Now, what are they talking about? When asked, where is your list? They didn't have a list.
They didn't have a list.
So that tells you something about what is really behind the agenda.
Now, ma'am, is this social security or a social welfare of the citizens?
Yes.
Is it a human right, part of this thing, human right, or a service that the state is obliged to give its citizens?
Well, it's part of human rights. The state is obliged to ensure that human beings have social security. and therefore social security is a matter of human rights.
Part of human rights.
Yes,
It
yes.
is.
But you see
Okay.
that even labor rights are being are on the wane. You see, with the labor code that they have made, in the name of consolidating the labor laws, they have diluted various labor law provisions.
Okay.
So you see that
So
instead
there is no
of
teeth. They don't have teeth.
yes, they have lesser teeth. They have lesser rights, substantive rights. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's all done in a nice garb. So one of the important challenges, and which therefore I use my pen or let's say the keyboard, is to expose this, because it comes in the garb of as if something is being done for you. But under the garb of something being done
something
for
else.
you, they're actually pulling it out from under your feet.
Which is not known to the general public.
Yes,
as
that
such,
is what was the case
because
with the
a
farmers'
rosy
bills
picture is
also.
given outside.
With the farmers' bills, they said that the farmers' bills were for people's,
Yes.
for the benefit of
For
the
their
farmers.
welfare, yes.
And talking of farmers' rights also, let me say that they keep again talking about this scheme, that scheme, etc. But the amount of paperwork that may be required, and secondly, before you reach there of availing those schemes, if your field is flooded because they have blocked the drainage, because the permissions for real estate have not been properly
Yes.
vetted, properly seen, looked at or scrutinized,
Yes.
then, or if they're widening roads which are not necessary to widen at all. Why do you need to have so many roads and through fields, cutting through fields? The few fields that are left, you want to take that away as well? I mean, this is happening all over. And that is why I got involved with this Talegaon community farming initiative. I am involved in cultivating my own field.
Okay.
I realized that it's not viable for farmers, but I am a lawyer, so I can manage it.
Yeah.
But what in that whole process, what I've understood are what are the problems that the farmers face.
Actually facing.
Yes. What are the issues that arise? Already there's no water.
Yes.
You see, because of climate change and because of all the extensive tree cutting, and they talk about rehabilitating, compensating for the tree cutting by planting trees in Madhya Pradesh or somewhere else. What is this?
Yes. Ma'am, on this, there is a National Human Rights Commission, right?
Yes. Or there's a State Human Rights Commission
and a
as
State
well.
Human Rights Commission also, which is kind of a umbrella organization. But what is actually the role of this commissions?
So
At the state level, we'll talk about the state level only.
So the Human Rights Commission is supposed to, if anyone has a grievance of human rights violation, they can directly, you don't need a lawyer or anything.
You don't need a lawyer.
They can approach a Human Rights Commission, but in the end, they end up needing a lawyer, because the person against whom the instrument of the state, you see, let's say whether it's pollution control board or whether it's the police or whether whoever, they have a lawyer. So in the end, the complainant also has
will have to pick a lawyer to defend
Yes.
himself.
Yes, to kind of support their complaint,
Yes, yeah.
But basically it's meant to be that, so usually what happens is that people write out their complaints and address it to the Human Rights
to
Commission.
the State Human Rights
Yes,
Commission.
and then the Human Rights Commission has hearing. They ask the other party to say what you have to say, the concerned government department, what you have to say. So usually it's entertained only after the person has gone to the police, to the pollution control board, to wherever, and their complaint has not been addressed, and then they have to go to the Human Rights Commission. So they ask them, what have you done about this complaint, what have you acted on, and then when it's shown that they didn't act on it, or they are giving unexcusable reasons as to why there was no case or whatever, then the Human Rights Commission can intervene and make recommendations.
But does this commission have the powers to recommend any changes and to bring in some corrective measures?
Yes.
If the violations of human rights are actually involved?
So the commission prepares a report with recommendations, and the government can only the government is bound to accept those recommendations
Of the commission.
If it does not accept, it has to give very solid reasons
why.
for not accepting the recommendations.
Now, for example, let's say there are so many human organizations, sometimes they raise their voice on certain things that are happening in society. They are protesting for a cause.
Yes.
But in a democratic manner when they are protesting, and there is a attempt being made to slap charges on them under the sections of the law, does this also come under the this thing of human rights violation?
Yes, of course.
Does it tantamount to human rights commission?
Yes, because they are fighting, they are human rights defenders, what we call human rights defenders. And when you are defending the human rights, if you're silenced or if your rights are violated, this is like this is preventing a defense of human rights.
Okay.
Because you're slapping, you're kind of slapping false charges
on
etc.
them
on
to
people,
silence their voice.
To silence them. So therefore, it's as important to fight for the rights of human rights defenders as it is to fight for the rights of the direct violations of human rights of the people of the communities that we work with.
Ma'am, right now Goa is going to through so many rapid changes, whether it is socio-political, socio-economical, and in migration, rapid industrialization and urbanization also. Do you think all these factors, and the overall situation, do you perceive any threat for human rights violation in the future?
Oh yes, very
much. If the activists are not alert and
so I don't think it's about activists not being alert, but I think it's about also the owners should not be only on who are termed as activists. The society as such must get together. It's not about activism. It's about people getting together, organizing and getting together and fighting this onslaught. Otherwise, things will not change easily, because then they will know that it can make a difference at the ballot, for example.
Yes.
Or that kind of impact with the organized struggle from people, with empathizing with other issues that we each are also raising, but which may not be part of the common issues being raised.
Okay, ma'am, there is one perception in the mind of people that some of the social activists, they have a hidden agenda in mind when they take up local issues or whatever violations. Is there any truth in this? What do you have to say?
It could be that some people see it's an open field, right? So you have people and people, you have politicians and politicians, you have lawyers and lawyers, you have doctors and doctors. So it's like that with this as well. I suppose there will be, but the point is, we are a small state.
Yes.
So you see, lots can be written, lots can be said to whatever, but I think the people, if you are grounded and if you are with the people can see through whatever. So it doesn't matter, if these people will be sidelined within the society itself at some point. If they'll get exposed.
What you want to say is that the intentions of any social activist should be good for the benefit of society and for the cause for what they are fighting.
I mean, the intention should be just.
Yes.
So the thing is that now if you start scrutinizing, for example, somebody cannot be tortured in police custody. Torturing somebody in police custody is a violation of human rights. But now if you are going to say that person, but he has done this, that and the other, you can't do this. You have to look at the violation of human rights. So it doesn't matter whether whose rights are violated. So you see, this is also something I think that we need to take into account, because that is a way to distract. You see, and they always start with violations of human rights with people who do not have a reputation in society for whatever reasons, rightly or wrongly. So then they start with that, and then it becomes a slippery slope, and everybody's human rights start getting violated. So we think, hey, that person, anyway, he deserves this. But then it slips, and that's what we need. We should prevent that violation, because under no circumstances anybody's human rights can be violated.
Yes. Ma'am, it's been nice talking to you, but we are running out of time.
Yes, I
but still, I have one last question to you. Okay, what is your message for our viewers today, especially the youngsters and the youth, because they got to carry this thing forward, you know,
Yes.
and the protection of human rights and just about everything. Briefly, can you give a brief message to the viewers and especially to our youth who are watching this program?
So I think one is to be grounded and to be connected to the people around us, to and across different sections of society, not only to the society that we are, the community or something that we are a part of, to be kind of grounded and connected and understand what the issues are, not simply go by social media and what's being posted there, etc.
Right,
because
right.
there can be all kinds. There can be
Absolutely.
good reports as well.
Absolutely.
So and then to kind of look at anything that is being said, to look at it minutely, anything in governance, to be like what we can call watchdogs, so that, because as I said, as the current scenario is one where a narrative of being offering you something, under a narrative of offering you something, the rug is being pulled from under your feet. So therefore we have to be alert to what is
happening around us.
Any policy, so-called policies, laws, in the garb of reaching out to you, where the rug is being pulled under your feet. So we have to look, we have to read. After all, we are part of that society. We have to read, expose and organize against any such things. And I mean, in fact, at the country level, the farmers bills are the farmers laws, you know, are a good example of how
this, what's
people
happening.
could stop it.
Ma'am, it was lovely having you at our studios, and thank you very much for sparing your time and coming
My
all
pleasure.
the way. Thank you. So that was Advocate Dr. Albertina Almeida, and she has given us so much of information on human rights. Keep watching your favorite channel, the CCR TV channel. Thank you.